The glass doors of Morrison Industries gleamed in the afternoon sun as Sarah Chen straightened her blazer and checked her reflection one last time. At 38, she'd built this company from nothing, transforming a small startup into a thriving enterprise with over 200 employees. Her corner office overlooked the city, but she rarely had time to enjoy the view. Today was different though. Something tugged at her heart, a peculiar warmth she couldn't quite place. "Mommy." The sweet voice rang out across the marble lobby, making Sarah freeze mid-step. A little girl, no more than 5 years old, broke free from her father's grasp and ran toward her with arms outstretched. Sarah's breath caught as those small arms wrapped around her legs, the child's face pressed against her navy skirt. "Emma, no," David Matthews rushed forward, his face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, Miss Chen." "Emma, this is Mommy's boss, remember?" But the child only held tighter, her small fingers clutching the fabric of Sarah's clothing like she might disappear. Sarah's heart did something unexpected. It softened. She knelt down, bringing herself to Emma's eye level, and found herself looking into the brightest green eyes she'd ever seen. The child's hair was golden, tied back with a purple ribbon that had come slightly loose. "Hello, Emma," Sarah said gently, her voice carrying a tenderness she rarely displayed in the office. "Mommy, you smell like flowers," Emma whispered, reaching up to touch Sarah's face with her small palm. The touch was so innocent, so trusting, that Sarah felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. David gently pulled his daughter back, his hands trembling slightly. "Emma's been coming to the office after school while I finish my reports," he explained, avoiding Sarah's gaze. "The daycare closes at 5, and with the Henderson project deadline." His voice trailed off, uncertainty coloring every word. Sarah stood slowly, noticing how David held his daughter's hand protectively, how his shoulders curved inward as if bracing for criticism. She'd always known him as a dedicated financial analyst, quiet but brilliant, always the first to arrive and the last to leave. But she'd never seen this side of him, vulnerable, struggling, human. "It's quite all right, David," she said, surprising herself with the warmth in her tone. "Emma is always welcome here." She looked down at the child again, who was still gazing up at her with those remarkable eyes. "Though I am curious why she calls me that." David's face went from pink to deep crimson. "It's nothing, really. Kids say things. You know how it is." But his voice cracked on the last word, betraying something deeper. This wasn't the first time. Sarah realized it now, memories clicking into place like puzzle pieces. Last Tuesday, she'd heard that same sweet voice calling from the break room. The week before, she'd caught a glimpse of golden hair disappearing around a corner, David's apologetic face following close behind. And each time, that word, Mommy, had floated through the air like a question mark. The next encounter came 3 days later. Sarah was reviewing quarterly reports when she heard soft humming from the hallway. She recognized the tune. It was from that animated movie about the Ice Princess, the one that had taken over every household with young children. Through her open door, she saw Emma sitting on the floor outside David's cubicle, coloring with fierce concentration. Sarah found herself walking over before she'd consciously decided to move. Emma looked up, her face breaking into a radiant smile. "Mommy! Look what I made for you." She held up a drawing. 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall with black hair, one small with yellow hair. Hearts floated around them like butterflies. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Sarah said, the endearment slipping out naturally. She accepted the drawing with the same care she'd handle a $1 million contract. "Is this us?" Emma nodded enthusiastically. "Daddy said you like purple, so I made your dress purple. And see? I drew your pretty shoes. Daddy says you have the prettiest shoes in the whole building." Sarah glanced toward David's cubicle, catching him watching them with an expression she couldn't quite read. Fear? Hope? Something else entirely? He quickly looked away, fingers flying across his keyboard with sudden urgency. "Emma, why don't you show Ms. Chen your other drawings?" he called out, his voice strained. But Emma had already taken Sarah's hand, her small fingers intertwining naturally with Sarah's longer ones. "Daddy tells me stories about you," she whispered conspiratorially. "He says you're the kindest person in the whole world. He says you help people and make everything better." Sarah's throat tightened. In all her years building this company, focusing on profit margins and market expansion, when had anyone called her kind? She was respected, yes. Feared, sometimes. But kind? The pattern continued for 2 more weeks. Each afternoon, Emma would appear like clockwork, always running to Sarah with that same joyful cry. And each time, David would apologize, would try to redirect his daughter, but the child was persistent. She'd leave drawings on Sarah's desk when she wasn't there. Little masterpieces of crayon and hope, pictures of houses with smoke curling from chimneys, of 3 people having picnics, of a woman with dark hair reading bedtime stories. Sarah found herself looking forward to these moments. The corporate armor she wore so carefully would slip away when Emma was near. She started keeping juice boxes in her office fridge, goldfish crackers in her desk drawer. She learned that Emma loved butterflies but was scared of bees, that she could count to 100 but always skipped 77, that her favorite color changed daily but was usually some shade of pink or purple. Other employees began to notice. Sarah caught their surprised glances when she'd kneel to Emma's level in the hallway, when she'd accept another drawing with genuine delight, when her usually stern expression would soften into something approaching maternal warmth. The office atmosphere shifted subtly. People smiled more. The tension that usually permeated the building during deadline season seemed lighter somehow. It was a Thursday when everything changed. Sarah had stayed late, working on a crucial merger proposal. The office was nearly empty, just the hum of computers and the distant sound of vacuum cleaners on another floor. She heard crying, soft, hiccuping sobs that pulled at something primal within her. Emma sat curled in a chair outside David's cubicle, her small body shaking with tears. David was nowhere to be seen. Sarah rushed over, her heels clicking against the floor with urgent purpose. "Emma, sweetheart, what's wrong?" She gathered the child into her arms without hesitation, feeling the little body mold against hers as if it belonged there. "I had a bad dream at nap time," Emma sobbed into Sarah's shoulder. "About Mommy. The real Mommy. She went away and she can't come back and I miss her so much." Sarah's heart shattered. She held Emma tighter, rocking gently, her hand stroking the child's hair. "Oh, sweet girl," she murmured, understanding flooding through her like cold water. "The real Mommy. Past tense. Can't come back." David appeared from the break room, coffee mug in hand. The mug slipped from his fingers when he saw them, shattering on the floor in a splash of brown liquid and white ceramic. His face went pale. "I'm sorry," he said, the words tumbling out in a rush. "I'm so sorry, Ms. Chen. I'll clean this up. Emma, come here. We should go. We should." "David." Sarah's voice was gentle but firm. She stood, still holding Emma who had wrapped her arms around Sarah's neck like a koala. "I think we need to talk." He nodded, defeated, shoulders slumping as he grabbed paper towels to clean the spilled coffee. Sarah carried Emma to her office, settling into the large leather chair behind her desk with the child in her lap. Emma's sobs had quieted to occasional sniffles, her thumb finding its way to her mouth. David followed, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. Sarah had never seen him look so lost. This confident analyst who could predict market trends with uncanny accuracy looked like he might shatter as easily as that coffee mug. "Sit," Sarah said softly, gesturing to one of the chairs across from her desk. "Please." He sat on the edge of the chair, hands clasped tightly in his lap. The silence stretched between them, broken only by Emma's quiet breathing as she began to drift off to sleep against Sarah's chest. "How long?" Sarah asked finally. 18 months, David whispered. "Car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light." His voice caught. "Emma was at daycare. She doesn't really remember it. Just that mommy went away and didn't come back." Sarah closed her eyes, holding Emma a little tighter. The weight of the child in her arms felt right somehow, like finding a piece of herself she hadn't known was missing. "Why does she call me mommy?" The question came out barely above a whisper. David's hands twisted in his lap. He opened his mouth, closed it, then seemed to gather all his courage. "Because I'm a fool," he said finally. "Because I'm a desperate, pathetic fool who doesn't know how to help his daughter." Sarah waited, sensing there was more. Emma shifted in her sleep, her small hand clutching at Sarah's blazer. "The first time she saw you, it was at the company picnic last spring," David continued, his voice gaining strength. "You were helping serve food, and you smiled at her, gave her an extra cookie. She followed you around the rest of the day like a duckling. That night, she asked if you could be her new mommy." Tears were running down his face now, but he didn't move to wipe them away. "I should have corrected her. I know that. But she was so happy, happier than I'd seen her since before. So I started telling her stories about you. How you built this company. How you help people. How strong and smart and kind you are. I showed her your picture from the company newsletter when she missed you." Sarah felt her own tears falling, landing softly on Emma's golden hair. "I never meant for it to go this far," David said desperately. "I kept thinking I'd find a way to explain, to fix it. But every time she saw you, she was so sure, so completely convinced that you were meant to be her mommy. And you were so gentle with her. Most people would have been annoyed, would have complained to HR, but you let her love you." The office fell silent again. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and Sarah found herself at a crossroads she'd never imagined. Her life was spreadsheets and board meetings, international calls and merger negotiations. It was not bedtime stories and scraped knees, school plays and birthday parties. It was not this warm weight in her arms and this aching tenderness in her chest. "David," she began, then stopped. What could she say? That holding Emma felt like coming home? That these past weeks had shown her a glimpse of a life she'd never thought to want? That the sound of a mommy from this precious child's lips had awakened something in her that all her professional achievements had never touched? "I know we've put you in an impossible position," David said, standing abruptly. "I'll request a transfer. Another department, another building if necessary. I'll find a way to explain to Emma that." "No." The word came out sharper than Sarah intended. David froze, fear flashing across his features. Sarah softened her tone. "No transfers. No explanations. Not yet." She looked down at Emma's sleeping face, so peaceful, so trusting. "Let me think about this. Give me the weekend." David nodded, hope and confusion warring in his expression. "Of course. Whatever you need. I'll just..." He moved toward them, presumably to take Emma, but Sarah found herself tightening her hold. "Let her sleep a little longer," she said. "You look exhausted. When's the last time you had a break?" David laughed, but it was hollow. 18 months ago. Go get yourself a proper coffee from the shop downstairs. Take your time. Emma's safe here." He hesitated, clearly torn between parental protectiveness and desperate need for even 5 minutes to himself. Finally, he nodded. "Thank you," he whispered, and the weight of those 2 words contained multitudes. After he left, Sarah sat in the gathering darkness, holding Emma and thinking. Her phone buzzed with emails she ignored. The merger proposal sat unfinished on her computer screen. None of it seemed as important as the rhythm of Emma's breathing, the sweet weight of her trust. Sarah thought about her empty apartment, stylish and cold. She thought about the family photos that lined David's cubicle, not just of Emma, but of a woman who looked. Sarah's breath caught. She stood carefully, Emma still in her arms, and walked to David's desk. There, in a silver frame, was a photo from what must have been David's wedding day. The bride was radiant, laughing at the camera with joy that seemed to leap from the image. And she looked, dear God, she looked like Sarah. Not exactly, but close enough. The same long dark hair, the same high cheekbones, the same way of tilting her head when she smiled. Understanding crashed over Sarah like a wave. Emma didn't just randomly choose her. To a grieving child's eyes, she was close enough to the mother she'd lost. Close enough to fill that aching void. Close enough to love. David returned to find Sarah back in her office, Emma now awake and chattering about her day at kindergarten. Sarah was listening with complete attention, asking questions about finger painting and story time as if they were the most fascinating topics in the world. Daddy! Emma exclaimed happily. Mommy says we can all have dinner together. Can we, Daddy? Please. David's eyes met Sarah's over his daughter's head. Sarah saw the question there, the uncertainty, the fear of hoping for something impossible. If your father agrees, Sarah said carefully. I know a lovely little Italian place nearby. They have excellent spaghetti. I love spaghetti. Emma bounced with excitement. It's my favorite. Daddy, please? David nodded slowly, wonderingly. Okay, princess. Dinner sounds nice. The restaurant was warm and inviting, nothing like the high-end establishment Sarah usually frequented for business dinners. Emma insisted on sitting next to Sarah, chattering non-stop about everything and nothing. David watched them with an expression Sarah couldn't quite decipher, his pasta largely untouched. You're not eating, Sarah observed quietly while Emma was distracted by the dessert menu the waiter had brought. I'm trying to memorize this, David admitted. Emma being this happy. It might have to last a while. Sarah reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. The touch sent electricity through both of them, unexpected and undeniable. David, ice cream. Emma announced loudly. Can I have chocolate ice cream, Mommy? The word hung in the air between the adults, loaded with possibility and complication. Sarah squeezed David's hand once before letting go. Of course, sweetheart. Chocolate ice cream for the princess. Over the next few days, Sarah found herself reevaluating everything. She'd built her life around her career, measuring success in profit margins and market share. But watching Emma's face light up when she walked into a room, feeling those small arms wrap around her with such complete trust, hearing that sweet voice call her mommy with such certainty, it all made her question what success really meant. She also found herself watching David. Really watching him. The way he juggled single parenthood with a demanding job, never complaining, always putting Emma first. The gentle way he spoke to his daughter, the patience when she had tantrums, the exhaustion he tried so hard to hide. He was a good man, she realized. A good father. And underneath the grief and stress, there was something else. A warmth, a humor, a strength that drew her in. Monday morning arrived with inevitable certainty. Sarah had spent the weekend thinking, planning, considering every angle as she would with any major business decision. But this wasn't business. This was life, messy, complicated, beautiful life. She called David into her office first thing. He entered cautiously, professional mask firmly in place. Ms. Chen. About last week, I want to apologize again for. Sarah, she interrupted. When we're discussing Emma, call me Sarah. His eyes widened slightly. Sarah, he repeated, testing the name. I've been thinking about how to handle this situation with Emma. I've reached out to a child psychologist. They said. What if we didn't? Sarah interrupted again. David blinked at her, confused. What if we didn't correct her? What if we explored this? David sank into a chair as if his legs had given out. What are you saying? Sarah took a breath, feeling like she was stepping off a cliff into free fall. I'm saying that Emma needs a mother figure. I'm saying that you clearly need help. I'm saying that I've never felt anything like what I feel when that little girl calls me mommy. Sarah, you don't understand what you're offering. Being a parent, it's not just the fun parts. It's sleepless nights when she's sick, it's tantrums in the grocery store, it's giving up your freedom, your spontaneity, my lonely dinners for one. Sarah supplied. My empty apartment that echoes. My weekends spent working because there's nothing else to fill them. She moved around the desk, sitting in the chair next to him rather than across. David, I built this company because I thought it would make me happy. And it did, for a while. But these past few weeks with Emma, with both of you, I've been happier than I've been in years. David's hands were shaking. This is crazy. You're my boss. Emma's just a child who's confused. I'm still grieving my wife. This isn't, we can't. Why not? Sarah asked simply. Why can't we try? Start slow. Dinners together. Weekend trips to the park. See where it goes. Because Emma's already attached, David said desperately. If this doesn't work, if you decide it's too much, it will destroy her. Sarah reached out, taking his trembling hands in hers. What makes you think I would give up so easily? I built this company from nothing, David. When I commit to something, I don't quit. He looked at their joined hands, then up at her face. You really mean this? I really do. But what about the company? The other employees? The impropriety of it all? Sarah smiled, the expression transforming her face. I'm the CEO. If I want to date a single father in my employ, who's going to stop me? Besides, I think the entire office has been watching me turn into a marshmallow around Emma. They're probably placing bets on when I'll adopt her. David laughed, the sound broken but genuine. She has that effect on people. She has that effect on me, Sarah corrected. But so do you. David's breath caught. Sarah. I've been watching you, she admitted. The way you never miss a school event, even if it means working until midnight to make up for it. The way you know exactly how she likes her sandwiches cut. The way you've held everything together when it must feel like your world ended. You're remarkable, David Matthews. Tears slipped down his cheeks. I'm barely surviving. No, Sarah said firmly. You're doing so much more than that. You're giving Emma stability and love and hope. You're showing her that even when terrible things happen, life goes on. That's not survival. That's courage. They sat in silence for a moment, hands still clasped, the weight of possibility settling around them like snow. If we do this, David said slowly, we have to be careful. Emma can't be hurt. She's been through enough. Agreed. We go at her pace. And yours, Sarah added. I know you're still grieving. I'm not trying to replace your wife. David squeezed her hands. Lily would have liked you, he said softly. She was strong like you. Determined. She would want Emma to be happy. She would want me to be happy. And are you? Sarah asked. Happy, I mean. Or at least, could you be? David looked at her for a long moment, seeming to really see her for the first time. Not as his boss, not as the woman his daughter had claimed, but as Sarah. Just Sarah. I think I could be, he whispered. For the first time in 18 months, I think I could be. That evening, they told Emma together. Sarah had worried about how to explain adult relationships to a 5-year-old, but Emma simplified everything with a child's pure logic. "So Mommy's going to come home with us?" she asked, bouncing with excitement. "Not yet, Princess," David explained patiently. "Sarah and Daddy are going to be special friends first. We're going to spend time together, all 3 of us. And then you'll get married and she'll be my real mommy?" Emma pressed. The adults exchanged glances over her head. "We'll see, sweetheart," Sarah said carefully. "Right now, we're just going to enjoy being together." Emma considered this with the seriousness only a 5-year-old could muster. Then she nodded decisively. "Okay. But can we have spaghetti again?" They laughed, tension breaking like a fever. "All the spaghetti you want," Sarah promised. The next months unfolded like a flower blooming in slow motion. Sarah discovered parts of herself she'd never known existed. The part that could spend hours playing princesses and dragons. The part that found joy in braiding hair and reading bedtime stories. The part that felt fierce, protective love when Emma skinned her knee or had a nightmare. She also discovered David. Not the employee, but the man. His dry sense of humor that emerged when he relaxed. His passion for astronomy that led to late-night stargazing sessions with Emma on Sarah's apartment balcony. His gentle strength when Sarah had her own moments of doubt, wondering if she was cut out for this instant family. "You're doing beautifully," he would tell her, usually when Emma had fallen asleep between them on the couch during movie night. "She loves you so much." "And you?" Sarah would ask, still uncertain, still amazed that this was her life now. "I'm falling," he would admit, each time a little more surely. "I'm falling and I don't want to stop." The office adjusted with surprising ease. If anything, Sarah found her employees more responsive, more loyal. Seeing their formidable CEO soften into a woman who kept finger paintings on her office wall and left early for school plays humanized her in ways no team-building exercise ever could have. There were challenges, of course. Emma had bad days where she cried for her birth mother, and Sarah had to learn that she couldn't fix everything with determination and resources. David struggled with guilt, feeling like he was betraying Lily's memory by falling in love again. Sarah battled her own fears of inadequacy, of failing this little girl who trusted her so completely. But they faced each challenge together. Sarah hired additional help at the company, delegating more so she could be present for Emma's important moments. David started grief counseling, working through his complex emotions with professional help. Emma thrived with the stability of having 2 parents again, her laughter returning full force. The moment everything crystallized came 6 months later. Sarah had officially moved in with David and Emma 2 weeks prior, their lives interweaving as naturally as breathing. It was a Tuesday morning, chaos as usual. Emma couldn't find her favorite purple socks. David was on a conference call with Tokyo. Sarah was trying to make breakfast while reviewing contracts on her tablet. "Mommy, I need help," Emma called from her room. Sarah abandoned the slightly burning eggs to help with the sock crisis. David shot her a grateful look as he continued his call. And suddenly, Sarah realized this was it. This beautiful, chaotic, imperfect life was exactly what she'd been missing. The burnt eggs didn't matter. The contracts could wait. What mattered was Emma's delighted squeal when they found the purple socks, David's hand brushing hers as he grabbed his coffee, the 3 of them moving through their morning routine like a choreographed dance. "I love you," she mouthed to David across the kitchen. He smiled, that warm, private smile she'd come to treasure. "I love you too," he mouthed back. "I love everybody," Emma announced, running into the kitchen with her purple socks proudly displayed. "Can we have pancakes tomorrow?" "Whatever you want, sweetheart," Sarah promised, scooping the child into her arms for a hug. David ended his call and joined them, his arms encircling both his girls. "Whatever makes my princesses happy," he agreed. A year later, Sarah stood in a simple white dress in the garden behind David's parents' house. It wasn't the elaborate wedding she might have once imagined. It was better. Emma stood beside her as the world's most enthusiastic flower girl, throwing petals with wild abandon while shouting, "My mommy's getting married." David waited at the makeshift altar, tears streaming down his face as he watched them approach. His parents sat in the front row, his mother clutching tissues, his father trying to pretend he wasn't crying too. Sarah's employees filled the remaining chairs, having collectively decided they wouldn't miss their CEO's wedding for anything. "You know," David said during his vows, "when Emma first called you mommy, I was terrified. I thought I'd made a terrible mistake, letting her believe in something impossible. But Emma knew something I didn't. She knew that sometimes love doesn't follow rules or timelines or logic. Sometimes love just recognizes itself and claims what it needs." Sarah's own vows were simpler but no less meaningful. "You and Emma didn't just give me a family," she said, voice steady despite her tears. "You gave me a purpose beyond profit margins. You gave me a reason to leave the office while the sun's still shining. You gave me butterfly kisses and bedtime stories and the kind of love I didn't know I was searching for until a little girl ran into my arms and called me mommy." Emma tugged on Sarah's dress. "Are you my real mommy now?" she whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Sarah knelt down, wedding dress pooling around her, and pulled Emma close. "I'm your mommy in all the ways that matter, sweetheart. Forever and always." "Good," Emma declared with 5-year-old certainty. "Can we have cake now?" The reception was joyful chaos. Emma danced with everyone, chocolate cake smeared on her fancy dress. David's parents welcomed Sarah like the daughter they'd always wanted. Sarah's assistant caught the bouquet and immediately locked eyes with David's brother across the room, starting another love story that would unfold in time. As the sun set, Sarah found herself on the porch swing, Emma asleep in her lap, David's arm around her shoulders. Their guests mingled in the garden, fairy lights twinkling like stars. "No regrets?" David asked softly. Sarah looked down at Emma's peaceful face, then up at her husband's loving eyes. "Not one," she said. "Though I do have a confession." David raised an eyebrow. "On our wedding day? Remember that first day, when Emma ran to me in the lobby? How could I forget? I thought my career was over." Sarah smiled. "I'd actually noticed you before. The way you always held the elevator for others. How you remembered everyone's birthday. The way your face lit up when you talked about Emma. I was halfway in love with you before she ever called me mommy." David stared at her. "You never said. I was your boss. It was inappropriate. But then Emma chose me, and suddenly I had permission to love you both." David kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. "Thank you," he whispered. "For seeing us. For choosing us. For becoming us." "Thank you," Sarah whispered back, "for letting me." Emma stirred, mumbling something about butterflies. They both looked down at her, this tiny person who had brought them together with her innocent certainty that love was simple and families could be rebuilt from broken pieces. "What do you think Lily would say?" Sarah asked quietly. She'd learned to speak of David's first wife naturally, understanding that loving David meant honoring all of his past. David was quiet for a moment, then smiled. "I think she would say that our daughter has excellent taste in mothers." They sat in comfortable silence, listening to the party continue around them. Sarah's phone buzzed with work emails she didn't check. David's laptop sat forgotten in the car. None of it mattered as much as this moment, this family, this love that had grown from such an unexpected beginning. "Daddy?" Emma's sleepy voice broke the silence. "Is this our happily ever after?" David and Sarah exchanged glances, thinking of all the challenges ahead, the teenage years, the balancing of careers and family, the ordinary struggles of everyday life. "It's our happily ever after beginning," Sarah said finally. The rest we get to write together." Emma nodded, satisfied with this answer, and snuggled closer into Sarah's embrace. "Good. I want to write about pancakes." They laughed, the sound carrying across the garden like music. And as the stars came out one by one, Sarah Chen, now Sarah Matthews, understood that sometimes the most successful mergers weren't found in boardrooms but in the simple moment when a little girl's faith transforms three separate hearts into one family. The company thrived under Sarah's newfound balance. Productivity increased as employees saw their CEO modeling that success didn't require sacrificing family. David was promoted to CFO, his insights invaluable and their professional partnership as strong as their personal one. They were careful to maintain boundaries, but the company culture transformed into something warmer, more human. Emma grew surrounded by love, secure in the knowledge that while her birth mother watched over her from heaven, her mommy here on earth would never leave. She kept pictures of both mothers in her room, understanding in her childish wisdom that love multiplied rather than divided. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when Emma was doing homework and David was cooking dinner, Sarah would pause in the doorway and marvel at the journey. From that first startling "mommy" in the office lobby to this gentle domestic rhythm, every step had led them here. The merger documents and acquisition contracts that once defined her success gathered dust while refrigerator art galleries and school achievement certificates took their place. "Mommy, can you help me with my math?" Emma would call. "In a moment, sweetheart," Sarah would answer, closing her laptop without hesitation. Because some titles were worth more than CEO. Some acquisitions couldn't be measured in dollars. And some confessions, like a desperate father's admission about his daughter's innocent mistake, could shake your world in the most beautiful way possible. The love story that began with mistaken identity became a legend in the office, proof that sometimes the best strategic plans were the ones you never made, and the most successful partnerships were measured not in profits but in the simple, precious moments when a little girl's voice calls you mommy and means it with all her heart.